Welcome to Charging the Podcast. The show is about recharging for a better self and also for a better world. Our guest today is Dr. Jamie Pajoel, the founder of Jamie Pajoel International, a renowned development practitioner and youth development and leadership expert, whose amazing commitment to social impact and youth development and leadership is empowering thousands or maybe millions of people, of young leaders across Nigeria. And I'm really excited to have him on the show because I've seen the work that he has done and he's doing, and I felt like these people like him provide that platform to share with our audience, to connect with us on what they are building and why they are building. So, Dr. Jimmy, I really appreciate you taking the time in a very short notice to be here today to share your journey with our audience. So, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here and to share in what you're doing. And of course, by this means, to be able to inspire and share my own story and then inspire other people. And I'm honored to be here today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being here. So, well, we'll kick it off. So the first step here, I always ask all my guests to tell me, introduction, what's your 2 minutes pitch? I know you've done this a million times, but you're welcome to share again for the sake of
all right. So my name is Dr. Jamie Pajoel, and I'm a leadership coach and trainer. I live in Canada. I run an organization in Canada. It's called Workplace Leadership Institute, which we started with an intention to change the narratives, to transform the way in which leaders relate with people within the workplace. And here in Nigeria, I'm the founder of Jamie Pajoel International, a youth leadership organization that is dedicated to raising resilient young leaders and entrepreneurs who will transform challenges into opportunities. The challenges are everywhere. What we are doing is transforming and training their minds so that their minds will transform challenges into opportunities. We believe in a mantra that says nothing is too big for our minds and nothing dies in our hands.
Absolutely.
So the mind is our target, because we believe that a transformed mind can transform anything. So when the business of transforming minds and in turns transforms challenges into opportunities.
I got to know about your work, and I have seen how amazing the spread of it. And because I think I connect with you ordinarily because I feel like the passion that you bring into your work and the level at which you're doing it's important because we need this in our time, in our country, in our nation, and in this time where it's very, very difficult. Leadership has been one of the greatest concerns in this country. The reason why we are where we are, and being able to focus with young people at a very early stage of their life or their career to say that you can think like a leader from the get-go, you can build a great career, you can do all these things, but you also have to start by thinking like a leader from the. You don't have to wait till you become a leader. You can build that capacity as you grow. Thank you very much for that, and thank you for that commitment to make that happen. So for me, I think I always ask this question as well because I like the idea of you don't just run into developing your life purpose into saying that I want to help people, I want to build something, I want to create social enterprise, I want to work as an entrepreneur, I want to be a leadership coach. Something must lead to something. So what's your social impact story? How did you get here, and why are you doing this?
All right. So I love to share my story, and I've been doing that for the past 20 years because it's important for people to know what's driving you. We've done some quiet projects that sometimes people thought, there was some sort of a hidden agenda, right? But one of the things I do is to let people understand what is driving me. I was 10 years old when my father and my mom had issues. And so I started hawking on the street at the age of 10. I and my sister supporting our mom. I'm born into a family of 7 where feeding was, for us in that family, feeding it's like by faith. Like you literally have to lift up your eyes to the hills from where comes your help. And then along the line, I lost my dad. And then they said according to tradition, so when the first son dies before his father, that the second son will take the inheritance.
Okay.
Now, because my dad didn't build any house, so we're basically living in his father's house. So this was how I became homeless. Now, I was sent to the north to serve my uncle, where I was treated like a slave boy without the price. I wasn't sent to school up until for after many years of my people complaining and all of that. So I had difficulties speaking, communicating effectively. I had difficulties in writing and all of that. Like the odds were against me. So, and but I remember one day I met I decided that I want to go back home. But the question is, where is home?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because my uncle took
Everything.
everything. So where is home? But somehow, there was a conclusion that I was going to be a burden to my mother. But I remember saying to myself that I won't be a burden. I want to be a blessing. I can still remember that very day because my story is like yesterday, right? And that singular decision to be a blessing was what triggered the drive and the quest for knowledge. So I realized that for me to have those things that I didn't have, I have to first become.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
And this is one thing and why I'm doing what I'm doing today, helping young people to first become. Because with who you become, you will surely have those things you don't have. So the desire to break out from generational poverty was a driving force. Family was a driving force. What you call generational causes simply means a generation caused it. I explain. It simply means my grandfather, probably didn't do some certain things in changing the narratives. And because what you don't transform, you will transfer. So he transferred that poverty as a package to my father. Now, my father also didn't transform it, transferred it to us. Now, when it got to my time, I said, not in my time.
Absolutely.
And so someone has to rise up and say, not in my generation. So there was a compelling decision to end it, to transform it, and not transfer it to my own children. So you see, it's generational. So if you look at what is driving me, it's connected to my story, it's connected to where the things that I've been through, the desire to break this. Now, in order to do that, you don't break it with hammer because the weapons of our warfare are not carnal.
Absolutely.
Right? But it's through the imaginations of our heart. So there had to be a transformation. I remember at some point when I did a program many years ago in school, and then I put under my name international speaker, and then people were laughing at me.
You're wondering, how do you want to go international?
Like, how? But you see, the things that we see today are made from the things unseen. So some said I was forming, and trust me, they were right, because I was trying to form something
First within
me. I was trying to model my mind to believe that it's possible. All right, so those things that I did many years ago, those processes, connecting it to my compelling why, because my why was so strong that nothing could stop me from breaking out. Like the decision was so intentional. So from there, in trying to find myself, I started creating platform for other people to also find themselves.
Yeah. You cannot build a path without shining your
So
own path.
in losing yourself to the service of others, you find yourself. So that was what happened to me. right? So that for me was my enterprise,
Interesting.
my
Social
social
influence.
impact
Yes.
story.
Thank you very much. I tap into that. I get that as well. So, since the idea is that you have to make a choice on your own because of the circumstances that you have found yourself, and you have to say, okay,
Absolutely.
oh, and that's almost for if you look at every great thinker, every great builder, someone there must be something in your life, in your growth, in your so at some it might be something that's been there before you were born. It might be something while you are alive, or at some point in your life you notice something that you want to change. You are motivated to do something a different way because there's something propelling that anger.
Yeah.
So it's that family situation that feel like, okay, if I need to do something different, and in doing something different, I'm happy. There's this saying that said that you cannot light the way for others without brightening your own path. So
Yeah.
in determining that you want to do something for yourself, and then you realize that okay, wait a minute, I actually have to create this whole army because I got into your spotlight for you for with me is what we're doing with young people, just
Absolutely.
curating leaders. I mean, getting people to self-organize, to build capacity, to begin to think. Because I'm sure that's what you were doing years back, and then
Yep.
now you're doing it in 10,000 other young people in themselves. Because you look back into that time, you're just by yourself trying to figure out your part. But now you have gained wisdom, you have gained resources, you've gained, and you're translating that into other people and then building that. So, and I know how that is important at that age, at that time, especially
Yeah.
in this country where
Yeah.
things is very, very different. You need that more. And every other thing you can end, you can go. But if you can battle that mentor, that mind at that stage, the rest of it is history because you will get. And so I like that whole idea you have to make it and all that. So thank you very much for sharing that. And I think
Thank you.
you kind of like delve into that. Now I want to speak more from that initial thing into that. So JPI, why JPI? You wanted to do. You've already talked about the motivation to start it, but
Yeah.
I'm just interested that is this very first thing that you've done, or is this like the thought? Most likely as a builder, as an entrepreneur, what becomes successful is usually not the first effort. It's not the first attempt. But some people, the very first one gets, but in most cases, usually a couple of different trials and errors and failures, and then eventually you find one thing that's missing, and then, pam, you eat the jackpot with that. But what is this? JPI your very first venture, or what else have you done? How did you come into now fine tuning this grade between JPI and then the Workplace Leadership Institute in Canada and all that?
I've done many other things, including running an organization, an NGO for dedicated to women. Yet
Okay.
still building capacity for women.
Okay.
I've done that. If I, as a matter of fact, in 2014, I did that conference, that event for women. I laid a campaign. It was an online campaign that hashtag Every Woman is a Star.
Okay.
That went viral, and after that event, African Union sent for me, and I had opportunity. I was invited to African Union and headquarters in Ethiopia and all of that. But there are quite a few other things. But as time begins to go on, I realized that there is a need, to consolidate, to have this work under one
Umbrella.
umbrella. And I also needed to make sure that the work we are doing today can be traceable and also be seen and also be attached to our name in such a way that even when I'm no longer on earth, people will know that the next generation coming will know that there's somebody called Jamie Pajoel. So, because of course the work I was doing was built around me, so I decided to also keep it under that name. So bringing the word international to it was still again connected to the intentionality to move from local to global. So Jamie Pajoel International today that we have is as a youth leadership organization, is designed to help young people to be able to acquire the relevant skill, transform their minds, and then being able to expose them to opportunities both at the global level. Now, all those things that was once too difficult for me to access. Those are the things that we're trying to make it easy for many young people to be able to access.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I mean, I am always interested in seeing how my guests respond to that question because I know that a lot of people see the result of or the at the point where you're validated or where you get that clarity and then you want to go a single way, you want to keep all your focus to a single direction. They think that maybe you've only had it all figured out. And I think that almost everybody is pursue the same path. You try to do something, a couple of different things, another thing,
Yeah.
and then I like the way uh, one of my spiritual father used to say it, Dr. Didi, he says, do it anyway. It might not be the thing, but it might be the thing that will lead to the thing. So eventually
Absolutely.
it's a journey.
Yeah.
You do it in different ways, in the unclear, not sure, but eventually it leads you to a journey that gives you some clarity, and you can now begin to hammer it on that spot. You know that's where you need to go, and that's what you need to do, and then you put all your resources into that, and then success just eventually happens. So
Absolutely.
that's it. So thank you very much for that. I will also, again, this other question, I have had to, I connect with it because I have been in this situation myself, and I know that people wonder that, oh, why did you leave America? I'm an American and I live in Nigeria and I'm working here, I'm building here. Are you okay? I mean, how do you survive? What's the motivation? You're here from Canada. You're a Canadian. You've started from here. You moved to a different place. The rules are different. It's easier to do things there. Then why are you still coming back here to do something that is going to take? It's 10 times more energy, more stress, more. But I connect with it. So I want
Yeah.
to see your perspective. Why are you building here? Why not in Canada? Or I know you're doing both at the same time, but at least the effort that's right here. What's happening? What's the motivation here? What's
Yeah, so in Canada, the focus is more like the companies that we run. The leadership is being expressed to corporate organization. However, in Nigeria, it's more of the youth, right? And you see, the best place to shine as a light is in the midst of darkness.
absolutely, absolutely.
Now, you cannot, as a light, go to want to shine where there is already in a place that is already bright. So I had to ask myself a question like, what problem do I want to solve in Canada? Is it electricity? Yeah, they have it. Is it health? They have it, right? Youths have access to grants. As a matter of fact, even the the system makes it easier. If you want to start a business now, once you have a good credit score, you can get up to $5,000 or $10,000 from bank as credit. It's like you're trying to start up a business, and then bank is already giving you almost 10, 20 million naira.
You can get all the way to, in some cases, you can get 100,000 just before
That's
you
my
even
point.
did any single thing. Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make. If you want to go to school, there's something called OSAP, which there's grant and there's loan. So you see, people have access to basic things that can help them to start to thrive, right? But many young people here are even barely seeing things to eat,
You still in the same
right?
spot.
So there's work to be done here. As a matter of fact, I'm encouraging using this means to also encourage every other Nigerians in diaspora. Find a place where you can express yourself and support in this country because diasporas can as well as help in developing our nation, right? I know a lot of people, just some of them just travel and they hear things like, I'm done with Nigeria. No, but for me, I can't disconnect from this place. You know why? Because I was made in Nigeria.
You're rooted here. You're
I'm
rooted.
rooted here.
Like,
The
tell me, say that.
resilient spirit that I have today was built here in Nigeria.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The courage, the tenacity that I'm using to do things in greater measure in Canada was developed here. And so when I look back, I see those who still need that support, that encouragement, that inspiration. So I always say that Canada cannot take the glory for the person that I've become today. Because the whole process of transformation happened in this country.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And if charity begins at home,
This is it.
this is home. And home is anywhere the heart is. So my heart is here.
Absolutely. No, I can't agree more. I think you just knock it right there because I personally, that's how I view it. I think that at the end of the day, what's important to you is this the convenience, the comfort of the real work of the impact. Where you get, I mean, I know what it means to just be here and to write it all out. And guess what? The peace that you have, the purpose that is derived, that is fulfillment that counts in doing the work here, is not the same. I mean, you can do some work. I mean, you're definitely doing some work in Canada, but I do agree with you. I think it's really important to see that comfort to know that that's why you're doing this. And then thank you very much. I do personally, I'm very grateful. I'm because I know how much of this work is needed here. So
Yeah.
thank you for choosing, because it's a choice. You could choose not to.
Absolutely.
And thank you for choosing to come back and to be here for
Thank
never
you.
even leaving in the first place, because you are still here. Your heart has always been here and
Yeah.
continue to do that. And I'm sure that this is the result of your work will continue to show other people it's possible. It might be tougher at first, but eventually it's difficult. We can get it done. So my other question is thinking about now speaking to people that trying, they look at you that feels like, okay, he's doing very well now. He has a Canadian passport. Oh, he's doing very well. Businesses all over the world. He's now the Jamie Pajoel has always wanted to be international speaker. He's now the international speaker. So how did it happen? What's happened? And then so I just want to looking back now and thinking about you and your journey. What are the top three things that you wish you knew that could have accelerated your journey? I mean, what are the things that if you reflect on it, and then someone that's hearing this now that want to be like you, but didn't have to go through that whole circle of self-discovery, of figuring out, because sometimes not everybody makes it through. People just die in the process.
Yeah.
They lose, not like literally dying in the ways of dying, but they lose their passion, they lose their strength, and they just give up of trying to be someone. So what are the top three things that you think if you wish you could have known, that could have made this easier for you, or you could have done things differently slightly?
Okay, so I think the top three things, the first and then the second, I kind of got them right. So, but I want to include it as part of the three because they are vital to have. They are must have. They're things I call must have. And that first one is having the right mindset. Now, you see, when we talk about this subject, this mindset, have a mindset conversation, I think people commonize it so much in this country, and it's a problem. It's a problem because when we are talking about it, some people see it as something that holds little or no value. But yet, it is the key to success and to progress. Now, the second thing is probably I would have started doing it better at an early age. Will be building relationship. I tell you something. You see, I was speaking to a group of young people and I said, stop looking for money. Start building relationship with men and women because money is in their hands and pockets.
True, true
You
that.
see, I grew up thinking that money is the only form of capital needed to start. So that was one of the things, my mistakes at the beginning, right? I grew up thinking that money is the only capital needed to start. But until my mind was enlightened to know that even courage is capital,
Absolutely, say that again.
beauty is capital. What is capital? Capital is anything that facilitates startup. Anything, not money. So money is one form of capital, not the only capital. Relationship is capital. So I started building quality relationship not at the early age. So if I'm to kind of advise someone or to start life again, is one of those things that we have to also kind of pay attention to. Now the third thing is thinking that because maybe, and I'm going to speak as a Christian, thinking that as you just serve God, your financial life will sort itself out,
Go with us, that.
right?
Okay.
So as of then, I didn't pay attention to financial education, taking full control and full ownership of that aspect of my life. With what I know today and the way the world system is designed, we don't have it's nothing. You see, what we have is not just gender inequality; it's economic inequality because you can't get premium service without having to pay premium fee.
Exactly.
So everything is connected to what?
how much resources you can control.
how much resources you have, right? So I've been in a position many years ago, that I had some funds coming in and all of that, but I didn't understand investment. I didn't understand saving. I didn't understand buying stock and all of those things that needs to buy land that with time it can appreciate. So these are some of the things that we are now dealing with and helping young people to make the right
Better
decision.
choices. All right.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
that they won't have to kind of learn when it's already kind of too late for
I
them.
agree. Absolutely. Thank you very much. I think I do agree. I think it's a lot of things will happen that can always be, but you have to understand the environment where you want to pour these skills into use. And then I like your point about money, because money was all things. But then we think money is the most important thing, but it's just one of the many things that we need to have.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that, for sharing that. So this one, I'm usually very because I know that because I know the audience for this podcast is not just ordinary people. The audience is just people that are trying to build, that are social entrepreneurs. So I want to give them some. I always want to be sure that my question is structured in a way that they can get something out of it in listening to it and in sharing this insight. So this journey started. You started to think about it, to make a lot of. But my question now is, when did you? At what point did you have validation? That you just felt like, okay, now we can begin to. I knew it last year, or maybe I don't know whether that was the first time you did that, but I know you took some people to Rwanda. Just like, you know what, we're not just doing this in Abuja or Lagos or somewhere else. But I'm going to expose you, and that's audacity. That is audacious. You want to do certain things and just bring people, buy them ticket, and give them accommodation. That's a lot of money and a lot of resources to put. So to get to that point, something must have happened. So I know.
Yeah.
So what's the moment of validation that you knew that this one with JPI, with the old color thing, everything you're trying to do, is the only path forward. I need to make it happen. How did you get into that point, and how does that feel?
I think it was at the time where, first you start doing it, and it will look like a play to people, right? And then when you were consistent in doing it, then people will now begin to take you kind of serious. Now you said something you cannot in trying to lead the way for others, you're lighting your own path.
Absolutely.
I think it was probably, and there's a reward that comes with trying to do something for people. First is that even you yourself, you're becoming a shining light. You can't be shining light and yourself, you're living in darkness, right? So I think for me, the validation to me, within me, it happened many years ago. In fact, that was what kept me running. But I think the validation at the point where people begin to realize that this we need to be part of this was when people saw that what I'm doing is real, that I'm real, and that there is no hidden agenda, and that I've been doing this thing even when I wasn't in Canada, even before we started seeing money. In fact, at the point where my neck was still looking like one that a child wrote.
And they drew on a page.
Right? So, but by the time people now started seeing that, oh, okay, this guy is also making progress in his life. He's not begging. He's also making progress. Because that conversation happened in their mind. How do I know? Because even when I wanted to take that step in sponsoring 27 people from Imo State to Rwanda, all expense paid, some thought it was some sort of a political stunt. Some thought it was just more like a catching cruise, right? I know some people didn't believe until the very first time at the moment I started releasing and saying that we've bought ticket. Some still didn't believe until the plane took off.
I mean, I can imagine. I can only imagine.
So the moment that happened, people who were not paying attention before now started paying attention. Oh, wow.
Okay, maybe this is something serious.
This is something serious. And You see, those steps are also kind of proofs, to let me know that nothing is impossible. So I did that singular thing. No financial reward came in. But I tell you something, I got a reward. You know the reward I got? It was a reward to move from confidence to conviction. There is nothing I cannot dare. Like, the only thing I cannot dare at this point in my life are the things that I don't want to dare.
Okay, wow, 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 wow. I like that one. Like, because, again, I'm in this place where I always think about these things around. It's for everything is possible. There's nothing impossible, but it has to be well within first.
Yep.
And I think that if you can't have that transition, that's what happens to 98% of people that end up not building something great in their lives because they can't get over that initial psychological, mental work
Yeah.
to actually believe and to do the work, to trust themselves, to believe it's possible, to think that they can just. Every great leader, every great builders, the things that we see in the world today that is looking great are just somebody's idea. Maybe they were in the shower or they were somewhere. They just like they had a moment, and then that moment became a reality. And years, all of us are beneficiaries of those innovations of those discoveries today. So I do agree with you, and I think that. So that takes me to the other one because I think that if you are very audacious, you have confidence, you have conviction, and you move on into conviction, then how did you handle rejections? It's part of it.
Fantastic.
We can't just talk about these stories because it's
Absolutely.
not, it doesn't work the first time. Multiple failures, multiple denials, multiple
Yep.
failures, and then eventually it will work. But before it works, there is that transition, that process. So how have you, how has rejection shaped you, shaped your journey, and how did you handle the first time you were rejected? And then, yeah.
Thank you so much. It's important that we are real. And it is in being real that people will connect to that authenticity,
Absolutely.
right? For me, there have been moments many years ago whereby I've held my pillow like this and I cried. You see, nobody likes rejection. Everybody kind of wants to have it. You need it and then you get it. It's just more or less like also like a child. Mommy, I want ice cream. You say, no, you're not going to get ice cream today. They'll cry, right? But they won't die.
Absolutely. Unless you can,
They won't
you
die.
can be certain of that.
So for me, there are moments where I feel down, overwhelmed, but I get out from it. There are days I wake up with no motivation.
And it's okay.
And it's okay. No, I will just be sad. And if you're around me, I will share some with you. Like,
You get residue.
there are days I wake up with no motivation, especially someone like me that it's a visionary leader. Sometimes I have a mental pathway of what I want to see happen. I can see the possibilities, but I don't have, maybe probably the means are not there. Right? And then it creates some level of sadness and all of that. And when it happens, I don't bottle up the feeling, the emotion. I allow myself to express for it to find its expression. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to sleep, sleep. Now, there are days I wake up with low motivation. The other one is no motivation.
Yeah.
This one is low motivation. So what do I do at the days of low motivation? I try to do things that can uplift my spirit. Maybe play cool music. I love worship, so I play worship. I can talk to a friend. I can do things that can elevate my spirit. And there are days I wake up with high level motivation. And when that happens, that day it's more or less like I become kind of more productive. Now, when I receive a rejection, I think I've outgrown that part where it's more or less like kind of break me down, because I've developed that. I know already that knowledge is empowering. I already know that for you to get something, achieve something, you're going to kind of encounter obstacles. So I see rejections as a sign, like you maybe you rejected my proposal. I see like you're the one losing. You don't know who you just rejected. You don't
Absolutely.
know who
No,
you,
no,
oh,
no,
you
no.
lose, not me.
Yeah.
You just lost an opportunity of associating with greatness.
Yeah. Yeah. You're for being
So
part for being a partaker.
so I switch it from feeling downcasted and all of that. I switch it. You lost, not me. Because if you know who I am, in terms of the value that I'm bringing, the value that I'm capable of bringing to your table, you will rush and embrace what I'm.
Yeah.
So when rejection comes, I just see it as they don't know yet.
Yeah.
If they know, they won't reject this.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you on that one because I think that if you, it's that's why I always ask this question because I think that it's important to understand the strategies, the mechanism that we use. It changes from person to person and
Yeah.
from time to time, but also like, is to know that at least it's there. You will not always be at your best, and
Of
it's okay.
course.
You will
It's
not
okay.
always, you will always be disappointed because
Yep.
some things are not going to work your way, no matter how much confidence, how much power you have, how much work you've done. But then it's okay. But then what's not okay is accepting that that's the situation. That's
Yeah.
always going to be a permanent situation.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to, okay, what kind of way how do we deal with it? It's a whole conversation in itself in dealing
Yeah.
and managing rejection and dealing with disappointment and being able to build something around that. But
There's something I want to add there. There's this approach that I use. I say, acknowledge that feeling, but don't accept. People don't know the difference. Acknowledgement is not acceptance. And sometimes, let me give you an example now. If I send you an email, you can acknowledge receipt, but that doesn't mean that you have accepted the terms.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah, yes.
So we acknowledge the down moments, we acknowledge the rejections, but we don't accept it as our reality. That's the difference.
And this is what happens with that. You know, when you have that sort of like understanding, you
Yep.
derive power from that process.
Yep.
You know, this is what I mean. Like, you're not because that's why people get overwhelmed because they deny something. Acknowledging something is meant from denial. Like you're not just even, oh, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's important. I'm no longer interested in it anymore. But that's not what happened. It's okay. This person has said no, and it's okay for them to say no. This opportunity where I wanted to apply for something, they didn't give me the money, or they didn't give me, I didn't get into this school. It's okay.
We move on.
But what can I do? Why did I? And then I can do that, and I can move on to a different one, and then from that point forward, I can trust that these things will happen.
And
So
sometimes you also need to know probably why you were rejected.
Yeah.
Because it could be that probably there are some things you need to go and sit down and fix, right, before moving to the next opportunity.
Yeah, I do agree with you. So I'll go to this other one and to talk to me about let's look ahead now. Let's look into the future. Let's look into the work that you're doing with JPA and how you are evolving. You still, I mean, it's still a process. You're still evolving as a leader yourself. I mean, because there's still a whole lot ahead of you that you're still going to do. So what do you think about what does the future look like for JPI?
The future is for us to be able to have our goal right now is our scope is to see how can we can be able to build a membership base up to a million members, and then execute 1,000 community projects,
Okay, great. Wow.
and then be established in 30 countries, not Nigeria, not just Nigeria, 30 countries. We're trying to leverage the power of young people, to be able to collaborate together, connect, collaborate, and then be able to produce greater results. So we're looking at a place where we can be able to have people in Nigeria are able to collaborate with people in UK or people in US. They can share resources together and knowledge and opportunities. So for me, I think until we get to that point where we are making that connections, we won't stop, because it's very, very important. If the resources are not here, they are somewhere. Now, if we can create a platform where people can connect and harness those opportunities, then be able to use that connections to be able to do something greater. Now, that's what the future looks for us, being that organizations that connect young Nigerians to global opportunities.
And to this other other question around measuring, because I want to think about it. Yes, you can have all these indicators of you getting people out of the country, getting them to be exposed, when building them, making sure that they are able to think differently and see what's possible. Then how does that translate into impact for you? Like, how do you measure impact in your work?
There are two levels to what we're doing. We're still at level one now, right? The level one is where you really get these young people to transform their minds. Now, how do you measure transformation that is within? It is in from someone, when you see someone who used to speak negative, now suddenly the language and the vocabularies, now start speaking, being positive. Someone who used to believe that life is worthless now started believing that there is an expected end. Now, that's how you measure transformation of the mind. Now, that's phase one. Phase two is what more or less like what I mentioned before, where a transformed mind can now begin to transform things, right? So that's phase two, which is where we are hoping to be able to introduce that youth trust fund. But we are yet to get into that phase two. Where we are right now is in phase one, which is more or less like about, okay, we're trying to get them to transform their minds, and then as soon as we launched this youth trust fund, then we're able to begin to do what, to be able to support them. Now, the moment we begin to provide that financial support, we will launch our KPI measures.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think that question is actually lead up into my next question, which is to basically just speak to those that might be hearing you, that might want to support your work, that might want to look for the ways to help achieve it. Because at least you've built an institution, you're supporting people, you also need support to accelerate and deepen that impact of your work as well. So I'm just thinking about that in terms of the opportunity that exists for you to get support from people that might be listening to this podcast, that might be interested in and finding pathway into seeing what your journey and then how does it look like and how
Absolutely.
long time is that. So what measures, what ways do you get resources from people, or what kind of support do you receive, or from which type of organizations or
So
individuals?
we've received several support, and we keep receiving support from people. If my own organization first in Canada, it's a leading is leading the sponsorship and supporting the work that we do here, because most times people just need to know that, see you doing it before they come on board.
Absolutely.
So we've been doing this for years on our own, and I can always say this because I'm that individual that don't kind of build based on external factor. I believe that you develop a system that can function from within, and then in the process, external support will start coming. Just like the conference we're having in March, we host the largest youth leadership convention in Nigeria as of today. And so every year we host. We're in Port Harcourt this year. We hosted 3,000 young people, young entrepreneurs. And in next year, March, we're hosting 5,000 in the city of Lagos. And of course, we're having different organizations and real estate companies and people who share in the vision of empowering young people. Sometimes they come on board. The last time Coca-Cola came on board and banks came on board, I mean, so we're having this support from institutions that believe in what we're doing and believe in that when you transform the young people's mind and they can transform things. So, and we're still, of course, open to organizations and individuals who want to be able to support.
Okay, great.
You can always, Jimmy Pajoel International, you can send us an email, info@jimmypajoelinternational.org. We're also very much active on social media and social space. So we have rooms for people who want to be part of what we do.
That brings me to my final question, Doctor. I think it's this idea that we're talking about Nigeria, and I'm very passionate about Nigeria. I love this country so much. I'm tempted by it. I love it's my root, but it's also like I have to deal with the reality that what comes with being here and living here and building here. It's tough, but it's also not impossible. So my last question to you is Nigeria worth it? Do you think that until we transition or transform our political and economic systems the way it's supposed to be, will it always be worth it to build, to continue to build here, to pour into this place?
To answer that question, if it's a yes or no, worth it or not worth it, I can tell you
You don't
that
have to answer yes or no, actually.
no, no, I will explain and I'll tell you that it's worth it, right? However, you need to understand the way the system, the economic system of this country is been designed so that you know how to position yourself. Now, it is designed in such a way that, right, if you come from beneath and then you want to scale up, it will be like you're going to experience long suffering.
I like that word.
But when you come from above, right, it's more or less like you're descending and then everything it's kind of opening up for you. Now, this understanding the architectural design in terms of the economic design of this nation, um, it will be worth it if you understand, if you're strategic, right? I tell you something. I use Canada as an example. The system is designed to give you the basic things, but it's also difficult for you to be able to scale up
Transition, yeah.
if you want to scale up. But when you also understand the system, then you know how to reposition yourself. So it's worth it to be here because we've seen some of our musicians export talents from Nigeria to outside of Nigeria. So the question is it worth it to build only here?
Okay, okay. So that's the strategy then. Okay, okay, let's go back. Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
Is it worth it to build only
Oh,
here? And I said, no, it doesn't want it to be only here. But is it worth it to build here, build somewhere else again, have scale up your
the
impact in
strategy.
different places?
Yeah.
Then it's worth it to build here, but it doesn't want it to build only here.
No, they won't survive it. You will crash. And I think I do agree. I think that's. I mean, unfortunately, that's our reality.
Yeah.
If there is lack of stability, if you're unable to have government policy that can allow you to have a system in place that is at least a good 10-year cycle for things to change drastically, and if you cannot have that, I do agree with you. I think at the end of the day, it's worth it. It can worth it, but it's only dependent on their capacity of the builder
Yeah.
to have a support system that is outside of this economy. Because otherwise,
Exactly.
it's impossible. Because
Exactly.
you really can't continue to. And if you look at all of our leaders or most of our successful entrepreneurs and business leaders, that's how they they've survived.
Yeah.
I respect and I love your passion. I love the way, and I think we need more people like you to think like you, to work like you, to position like you, to transform this country because Nigeria worldwide Nigeria is important for this country to move. Of course,
Absolutely.
but we can't do anything without it. But then there's a lot of we have to acknowledge.
Yep.
I'm coming back to your word. Acknowledge the fact that it's a tough work and it's
Yeah.
a difficult one, but it's not an impossible one. So thank you very much
Thank
for
you so
sharing
much
your
for
time with
having
us
me.
today on this
Appreciate
podcast. And please like the podcast. Make sure you put the notification is on. Make sure you so you can always receive updates about the next post. And this series that we're working on right now is part of the series we call Meet the Founders series, which is the very first series, a season of the podcast. And then we're basically just trying to have this conversation with builders. So to get the next episode, to be sure that you're able to get all of them, make sure you're liking the channel and you're also like getting this. Make sure your notification settings is on to get notified when a new one comes up. So again, thank you very much for sharing
Thank
this
you.
beautiful opportunity, this platform with me today to just share your thoughts in a very transparent and honest and authentic way. And
Absolutely.
and I really appreciate it. And I believe that my audience will be able to get a lot of things from you. And then thank you again.